You've tried every productivity system, downloaded every app, bought every planner, watched every video about morning routines and time management and getting your life together, and you still can follow through on anything for more than 3 days before your brain decides that structure is suffocating and routine is death. And actually, maybe you should start 7 new projects instead of finishing the one thing you promised yourself you'd complete. And you're so tired of failing at the basic things that seem effortless for everyone else. So exhausted from knowing exactly what you should do but being completely unable to make yourself do it, so defeated by your own brain that you've started to believe maybe you're just lazy, just undisciplined, just fundamentally broken in a way that no system or strategy will ever fix. You understand your ADHD, you've read the articles and the books and the Reddit threads. You can explain dopamine deficiency and executive dysfunction and rejection-sensitive dysphoria. But understanding why your brain works this way doesn't make it any easier to actually function. Doesn't help you meet deadlines or remember appointments or finish tasks. You started with enthusiasm that evaporated the moment something more interesting caught your attention. Doesn't stop you from hating yourself every time you fail again at something that should be simple. That is simple for people whose brains came with the operating system that society was built for. You've been told to just try harder, just focus, just make a list and stick to it. Just build habits like it's that easy. Like your brain doesn't actively rebel against anything that feels like obligation. Like you're choosing to be this way instead of desperately trying to figure out how to exist in a world designed for neurotypical people. While your brain is playing a completely different game with completely different rules that nobody bothered to explain to you. You start things and don't finish them every single time, no matter how important they are, no matter how much you care, no matter how badly you want to prove to yourself that you're capable of following through. You have 17 browser tabs open, and none of them are what you were supposed to be working on. You set alarms that you ignore, make plans that you forget, create schedules that you abandon the moment they start to feel restrictive. You hyper-focus on random shit that doesn't matter and can't focus on crucial shit that does. You know what needs to be done, but you sit there paralyzed, scrolling, avoiding, hating yourself for avoiding, but still avoiding because the task feels too big or too boring or too overwhelming, and your brain would rather do literally anything else. You forget things constantly. Appointments, birthdays, conversations you had yesterday where you put your keys, what you were just about to say, that bill, you needed to pay that message, you meant to send that promise you made that you genuinely intended to keep, but it just vanished from your mind like it was never there. You live in constant guilt, constant shame, constant awareness that you're disappointing people, that you're unreliable, that you're not living up to your potential. That you're wasting your intelligence on being unable to complete basic adult tasks that everyone else seems to manage without even thinking about it. You've been late so many times you've stopped making excuses. You've apologized for forgetting so often the words have lost meaning. You've let people down so repeatedly that you've started to avoid making commitments because you know you'll probably fuck them up, and you're tired of seeing that look of disappointed but not surprised on people's faces when you inevitably do. This isn't character failure. This is trying to operate a Ferrari brain with bicycle infrastructure. Trying to run software that requires constant stimulation and novelty and interest on hardware that society insists should function on routine and repetition and obligation. Trying to exist in a world that punishes the exact traits your neurology produces while offering no alternative pathways that actually work with how your brain is wired. You weren't designed for 9-to-5 desk jobs, for doing the same task the same way every day, for remembering things without external systems. For motivating yourself through sheer willpower when your brain's reward system requires immediate feedback and high interest to release enough dopamine to make action possible. Neurotypical people get dopamine from completing tasks, from checking things off lists, from the satisfaction of a job well done. But your brain doesn't work that way. Your brain needs the task itself to be interesting, needs novelty or urgency or challenge or play, needs something inherently stimulating, or it just won't produce the neurochemical fuel required to make you do the thing. And no amount of knowing you should do it, no amount of wanting to do it, no amount of understanding the consequences of not doing it will override the fact that your brain physically cannot generate the motivation required when the task doesn't naturally provide the stimulation your dopamine-deficient system needs. Here's the truth that will either wreck you or save you. You will never function like a neurotypical person. You will never have their kind of discipline or their kind of routine or their kind of seemingly effortless ability to just do things because they need to be done. And trying to force yourself into their systems is why you keep failing, why you keep hating yourself, why you keep having breakdowns, because you're trying to be someone you're not, trying to operate on an operating system. Your brain doesn't run trying to succeed at a game where the rules were written by people whose brains work completely differently than yours and who never considered that maybe other brains need different strategies. The routine that saved you from collapse isn't a routine in the neurotypical sense. It's not waking up at the same time every day and doing the same things in the same order with rigid consistency. It's a flexible framework that works with your chaos instead of against it, that accepts your brain for what it is instead of trying to force it into what it's not, that builds structure around the reality that you need variety and stimulation and interest and urgency, or you simply will not do the thing no matter how much you beat yourself up about it. Step 1 is externalizing your entire brain, because your working memory is a sieve, and trying to remember things is setting yourself up to fail, and then hating yourself for failing when the failure was inevitable, because your brain literally cannot hold information the way neurotypical brains can. So you take everything out of your head and put it somewhere external. Every task, every appointment, every idea, every commitment gets written down immediately, not later, not when you get home, immediately, or it's gone forever. And you use one system, just one, not 17 different apps and notebooks and reminder systems that you'll forget to check, just one central place where everything goes, and you check that place religiously at specific trigger times throughout the day, not because you're disciplined, but because you've linked checking it to something you already do automatically, like morning coffee or lunch or getting into bed. Step 2 is killing overwhelm by making tasks so small they're almost stupid, so ridiculously tiny that even on your worst day, even when executive dysfunction has you completely paralyzed, you can still do the microscopic version because you're not trying to clean the house. You're trying to put one dish in the dishwasher, not trying to start exercising, trying to put on workout clothes, not trying to finish the project, trying to open the file. Because your ADHD brain shuts down when tasks feel big, but can actually do things when they're broken down into steps so small that each individual step takes less effort than the resistance you feel towards starting. And once you do the tiny thing, your brain often kicks into gear and you do more. But even if you don't, even if you only do the one tiny thing, you've still done something instead of nothing. You've still built momentum instead of staying stuck. And over time, those tiny things accumulate into actual progress. Step 3 is using urgency as medicine instead of poison by creating artificial deadlines and accountability that mimic the panic-induced hyperfocus you get when something is genuinely due, because your brain comes alive under pressure, produces dopamine when there's a clock ticking or someone waiting, and instead of waiting for real emergencies to force you into action, you create fake ones that trigger the same neurochemical response. You schedule body doubling sessions where someone is literally sitting with you while you work, even if they're not helping. You set timers that create urgent micro-deadlines. You make public commitments that activate your fear of letting people down. You use your rejection sensitivity as fuel by putting yourself in situations where not following through means disappointing someone whose opinion you care about, because your brain won't do things for future you, but it will do things for external accountability and immediate consequences. You can start this today right now by taking out your phone and putting every single thing you need to remember into one app. One calendar, one task manager, one note system. Whatever works, but just one. And then you set 3 specific times when you'll check it without fail, 3 moments in your day that are so routine you can't skip them, and those become your check-in times where you look at what needs to happen, and you pick the smallest possible version of the most urgent thing, and you do just that. Just the smallest possible step. And if you do more, great, but if you do none, also great, because you've still done something, and something is infinitely more than nothing when you're someone whose default is paralysis. Stop trying to build a perfect routine and start building a survival routine, a minimum viable routine, if I do these 3 tiny things, I won't completely collapse routine. Because perfection is what's been killing you, the belief that if you can't do it right, you shouldn't do it at all. When actually doing it badly is better than not doing it. Doing it chaotically is better than not doing it inconsistently is better than not doing it. And once you accept that your version of functioning will never look like their version of functioning, you can stop measuring yourself against standards that were never meant for your brain, and start building systems that actually work with the chaos instead of trying to eliminate it. Because the chaos isn't going away, the ADHD isn't going away, the executive dysfunction and the working memory issues and the dopamine deficiency aren't going away. And you can either keep trying to force yourself into being someone you're not, or you can start working with who you actually are and building a life that accommodates your brain instead of constantly punishing it for being different. You have a chaotic brain, and 3 steps won't cure it, won't make you suddenly neurotypical, won't eliminate the struggle or the shame or the constant battle with your own mind. But they might keep you from collapsing completely, might give you just enough structure to function without suffocating you with rigidity, might let you finally start finishing things and keeping promises and showing up for yourself in ways that prove you're not lazy or broken or doomed. You're just different, just working with different neurological equipment, just trying to survive in a world that wasn't built for brains like yours. And survival doesn't require being perfect or fixed or normal. It just requires finding the minimum effective dose of structure that keeps you functional without destroying your spirit. And if that's not motivational, if that's not inspiring, if that's just realistic and practical and a little bit sad, Then good, because you don't need more inspiration. You need more honesty about the fact that this is hard, that having ADHD in a neurotypical world is exhausting, that you're not failing because you're not trying hard enough, but because you're trying to use strategies designed for brains that work nothing like yours. And the moment you stop trying to be them and start building systems for you is the moment everything starts to shift from impossible to maybe, just maybe, survivable.